Sister Citizen is the most depressing book I have ever read in my life. I think the only book that maybe competes with this is the book about Precious, the movie, and I couldn't even finish that book. So maybe that book was worse. Ugh, but this was just so disturbing. Hey, welcome to Spirit Soul Sense, Information for Your Soul. I am Shareece, and I actually do not like negatively critiquing anyone's art. I think a lot of energy goes into someone creating something, and to say negative things about it just makes me feel really uncomfortable. So I'll start with what I liked about the book. I like that this was a dream come true for her. She put a lot of energy and research into the book so that it was excellently written. Oh my gosh, so detailed, so informative. I didn't read the physical book, but I know that it has, references. You can go and double check anything that you want to find out where in history did this occur. So it's very research oriented, I would say. And so from my background of being in so much schooling and so much research and, writing a dissertation, I'm very familiar with how to consume this kind of information. So it was not a difficult read at all. Nothing in this book was difficult for me to understand. But the content of the book, it's traumatizing in a way. And it's so weird. I know that this is Black American experience, African American women experience in America. She starts the book right at slavery. And I honestly think that's part of why there's so many problems in American culture, African American culture, Black culture in America, because this understanding of self, like identity, is so important. And if you are told that your history starts at slavery, your history starts with your ancestors being, forcefully taken from their home country and brought it, like that's where your history starts, it's just super depressing. And so the book, because it goes from slavery and ends with Michelle Obama, and let's just go to progress, because I definitely thought the Michelle Obama piece was problematic. But overall, they go over three major stereotypes or tropes, like programming, messaging that was used to alter people's minds that's not exactly true. And so she goes over the mammy trope, the sapphire, which is like the angry Black woman trope, and then the Jezebel. So this idea that Black women are hypersexual beasts, animals, or something. And so all of this is steeped in history. You can't have oppression without having someone on top. And so the whole point of slavery, anti-Blackness, is to keep the racial hierarchy. White supremacy would be at the top of that. White is the best, Black is not. And I'm actually watching Amend documentary on Netflix that my son has been watching. And they also are doing a very great job of detailing the history. I would really strongly encourage you to find out what might be your history before slavery, because I think that's very empowering, and understanding that you come from a history of rich culture, of hardworking people, of kind people, of innovators. Like that's where you come from. And so this focus on, all the stereotypes, while I think it's important to be aware, I think what you focus on is what will increase. And so I just don't find it extremely helpful to dwell on this. If you've never heard about this before, it would be great for you to know this, but don't dwell on it. Negative stereotypes are just that, negative stereotypes. You can't control what other people think about you, or whether they respect you or not, but you can control what happens in your world, in your bubble, right? Because I live in a bubble of kindness, peace, love, joy, wonderful family, friends, who love me and care for me. And so if you just focus on, these negative stereotypes, I think it can just stick being very depressing. And so she goes over those stereotypes very well. I think it's very well laid out, but she spends an enormous amount of time on the strong, independent Black woman stereotype, which is not really a stereotype like the other ones are. Like the other ones are very much manufactured from white supremacy to denigrate, oppress the population. But the strong, independent Black woman has come out of the circumstances. And so African American women typically pride themselves on being strong and Black and independent I'm making the face because I didn't grow up with this messaging, because my history as a Caribbean Black woman is different. It's just very different. I know my history doesn't start with slavery, and even in slavery and aftermath, the story is very different than in America, where they ended up doing segregation, Jim Crow laws, just onslaught of rioting and attacking of Black communities. That did not happen in my community. So I understand the special circumstances that make it very difficult to be African American, why race is always a part of the discussion for equality. Not to be better than, just for equality. And so I liked that she talked about the strong Black woman, independent Black woman idea, and that it's so prevalent in communities. There was no plan on how to stop. Right? The book didn't provide a plan on how to stop. And then she pointedly did not talk about class. And I think I was just talking to my son about this. At one point in time, the racial demographic of the United States is going to be so homogenous that we will no longer be able to distract or escape the discussion of class. A poor Black woman who is fourth generation poor is very different than an affluent Black woman. The race is hardly a thing that keeps them similar. Like, they're so dissimilar because of their class and because of the things that they're exposed to and their opportunities, that they really don't have much in common. An affluent Black woman probably has more in common with an affluent white woman than with a poor Black woman. I know, like, the Black community has bonded on this, race because we've had to, but I really think the classism discussion was missed. And she mentioned it in a sentence, but really spent no time on it. It was really like a passing comment that, oh, that's a factor that plays, but I'm not talking about it in this book. She goes on to discuss the differences between, she doesn't discuss the differences, but she also briefly mentions middle class mentality or thinking, or what is it? Middle class values. Middle class values, and contrast them with poverty values or poor working class values. And it's almost as if she's saying middle class values should not be pushed onto the values of the poor. And to me, that didn't make sense, because aren't we trying to get more people out of the poor and into the middle class? And how do you do that if you don't change the thinking? I don't know. That part didn't make sense to me. My understanding of, wealth building, economics, is you need to be informed. You need to be aware. And so your thinking as a result is going to change, because a lot of the people who are poor, and I definitely don't blame the poor for being poor. There are structural issues, but part of it is the programming that affects the mentality. And if you can change the mentality and educate and make more people aware, you can see changes. And so then they would move into the middle class. To me, that seems like a no-brainer. But in an effort not to shame, I suppose, she worded it in that way. She ended the book with Michelle Obama's life. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't really care for the Obamas. I think it's great that we had a Black president, right? I do Black and biracial in parentheses because he's not all Black. Black biracial president, which is great. He had like a regular Black woman, which I'm sure was like a very conscious decision that he made, because he knew he wasn't going to be president with a white wife. And she's great. He's great. They did accomplish wonderful things in the White House as people, for their families, for the community. But they're not people I look up to. To me, they represent a lot of the manipulation and the lie, like, to become very successful in America. It's just, You should have stepped on a lot of people. And so I just see him as another president. He's another president. He didn't even do all that much for Black people. It's really neither here nor there. They are regular people. They accomplish great things. Using Michelle Obama, starting from, you know, her being poor to now she's affluent. Like, she don't live no regular life. She's affluent, I thought was inappropriate. To use her as a case study for regular women, I thought was inappropriate. And then in this focus on, I suppose, praising independent, strong Black women, it was odd to me that she would use Michelle Obama as an example and look at how she decided to stop working to become First Lady, raise the children, and not sort of recommend Black women do that. Listen, I'm not saying all Black women have to be their husband's helpmate or they have to have a head of the household and can be equals. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, if you're saying that Michelle Obama, the way she did it in a pseudo-traditional, it's not really traditional, someone has a law degree, pseudo-traditional, but deferring to her husband in a sort of way, helps to secure their relationship, helps to build generational wealth. I'm a bit lost on why you would use her as the example and not also recommend that women secure a husband and one that could be a good leader. I don't know, especially since the author, Melissa Harris Perry, is married. I mean, she's hyphenated, has her husband's name. And I remember her traveling back and forth because she used to work on MSNBC. But she lived at home. Lived at home. I know that she got up like extremely early in the morning to do her show, but she would travel back and forth because her family came first. And that's to me like woman with career versus career woman. And making certain sacrifices because you know it's going to be to the benefit of your family. I mean, she did talk about, you know, the strong Black independent woman thing being a detriment to Black women because who do you ask for help if you're a strong independent Black woman? Are you allowed to cry? Are you allowed to be soft? What are you allowed to do and not do? That's not then frowned upon by other people in your community. So I wish that was tussled out a little bit more. I wish the message was a little bit more clear that there are certain ways to be in the world that might bring about a little bit more success than not, and that being interdependent with a mate is probably more successful than sticking to like this independent Black woman thing. And I'm a Black woman and I love Black women, and you know, I live in America, and so to me this is important, which is why I decided to do a video on it. I applaud anybody who writes a book. I applaud. It's so hard. I'm writing books now. It is so hard. But I applaud her for writing this book, for gathering all this data. And I hate bullying or pressuring authors for other books, but I need another book, miss. I need another book about how to be an interdependent Black woman in this America. How to ignore the stereotypes that people have about us so that we can flourish. Like I am tired of conversations about just surviving. I am thriving and I want to hear about more Black women that are thriving because there's so many Black women are thriving, right? With healthy relationships, with children that they love, with careers or being a housewife or a mother that they love. And I just want more of that. I just want more of that. I'm just tired of the oppression Olympics. Could we just focus a little bit more on thriving? Because what you focus on will increase. And I thrive, growth, like Kelly from Insecure.
You know what that is? It's growth.
Let me know what you think in the comments. Remember to like, subscribe, share this video, please. And thank you for watching.